right? Why would you fight in a war that you know you're not going to win? And it's like, you know, just blindly following your commanders, knowing that they're not doing the right thing and that they could, you know, pose a threat and just lead themselves into certain death. Why would you do that? Doesn't make any sense. What up? I really have something that's bothering me, and I want to talk about it because, you know, I just can't keep it in anymore. You know, I gotta let it out. So, yeah, before I get started, if you want, you could follow me on X at JPBiambi. All right. I'm not really on social media much, but if you want to comment, you want to DM, you want to give me your thoughts, you can put it, you know, in the comments section of the video. I'm going to, you know, leave a link to my socials so you can get at me that way. Anyway, I really want to talk about what's going on, you know. Right now, it looks like there's, you know, some conflicts that the United States are getting involved in. They're calling it the, you know, U.S.-Israeli-Iranian war, you know? It's like really weird. I don't know. To me, it's kind of like the war in Iran, right? Before they had the war in Iraq, this is basically the war in Iran, and it's happening now. It's really disturbing, and it kind of bothers me. It's disrupting everything, you know, and it's now starting to affect stuff that we all see every day, like gas prices, food, and, you know, all that. That's really annoying. One of the things that really bothers me about this, and I've spoke about it before, and I've even posted about it on X, which you can go check out, is, you know, something that I saw on social media, and it had to do with a social media influencer who was defending the fact that she was on OnlyFans, right?
Army is worse than being on OnlyFans.
Wow.
Her argument was that, you know, she'd rather be on OnlyFans selling her body than, you know, fighting for a military under a government that she doesn't trust in a war that she doesn't believe in. Think about that for a second. So, you know, I actually put a post on X about that, and I said, you know, that's the kind of the result of when, you know, the U.S. government doesn't take seriously the responsibility of, you know, the trust that our women and men who are fighting in our wars, our soldiers. When you violate their trust in the government, then we have nothing left. And if you don't, you know, have the trust of your servicemen, the men who are in the, you know, armed forces like the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, you know, the Marines, those military service people, men and women, you know, they need to have trust in their government. And if you don't trust the government, then, you know, the government violates that trust that those servicemen have, the faith that they'll have in the people who are their leaders, you know, the people who they're taking their commands from, you know, because that's the way the military works. You just take commands, you don't question them. So for that to happen, you got to have trust in your leaders and your peers and the whole squad or your team. That's just how the military works. That's how the armed forces works. And if our supreme leader, the president, is not somebody you could trust because he's obviously been caught lying. He's known to twist facts, to create narratives. Like now he's gone so far as to just, you know, like make things up that aren't even true. So, you know, my question to you is, how can somebody fight in our military when you can't really trust what our president or our supreme leader, the executive in chief, you can't trust him and you don't believe what he's saying or can't, you know, fully trust that what he's saying is the full truth at every moment, all the time, then there's a problem. You know, if there's something questionable about what he's saying or doing, then there's a problem. If there's even one possibility that he could be lying or you don't trust in him, then I could see how that could violate the trust of service men and women who are serving in the Army. And then again, we've been through this before. We've been through wars in Iraq and other places and Vietnam, and most likely people who have served before will tell you that useless wars, they don't, produce any value. They just, create trauma and devastate the family of the people who fight in those wars. Now, if you're going to be a serviceman, you're going to go fight in a war, and you don't trust the person who's sending you in a war, you don't trust why they're sending you in a war, you don't believe in the reasons they are sending you to war, then there's a big problem. And I think that's the issue that our country is going to be facing right now. It's a huge problem. And I don't understand where this is going to go. It actually is disturbing me because humans in America, people like me, everyday humans, are going to be affected by something somewhere else that has nothing to do with us. Most people walk around every day just trying to live their lives on this earth like normal, simple human beings, and they try not to get in the way of like world leaders and powerful people who've got like machinations on the world, who are trying to do disgusting, ill things, all right? The rest of us, we're just trying to walk around the earth and enjoy our lives and live peacefully and happily, all right? And there are a few people who want to fight over, the machinations in our global economy. Whatever you want to call it. Money, attention economy, whatever. Resources even, the control of resources as we see now, which is a big deal, right? Forget attention and money. Iran is proving that resources are the biggest deal. Fertilizer and oil, and among other things, natural gas, are starting to be very, very important resources that we know we can't live without. Even a small fraction or percentage of what the world is getting, if we are missing any part of it, then our lives start to suffer, as we see. Gas is already up somewhat like $1 or more at the pump right now, and I'm sure people feel that because it's like so quick. Within a matter of weeks, you're seeing gas go up $1, and you're not used to that, right? So that affects people's lives immediately, and we see that. And the way I start to feel is that if United States is in a war, not a proxy war, we're just sending guns and ammo and missiles to some other country for them to fight the other country like they were doing in Ukraine a few years ago, or like they still are now, while they're pursuing another war with another country against Iran. You've now partnered up with Israel to fight Iran. If I was a serviceman, all I'm saying, if you asked me to go to war, if there was an all-out draft and said, hey, we just need everybody to go to war, forget just young people, forget whoever, we're just taking anybody and everybody to go to war, I would say, nah, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I don't trust it, and I don't trust you. I might go to war for something I trust or something that I believed in, right? But that's definitely not what the United States is or is doing. You can't trust them, and I don't really believe in what they're doing. Those are two things right there that make me say, nah, I'm not doing it. So to the servicemen and women out there, I appreciate you. I thank you for doing what you are doing, but hopefully you have your own reasons for doing it, and you're not trusting and believing in, what your leaders tell you. You need to make your own judgments, and you need to understand that what you're doing is for yourself and for your country. Just make sure you know that. And try to understand, that people like me, are supporting you and doing everything we can, and that, we appreciate you and we believe in you, and, we're thankful for you for, being on the front lines, but understand that is, a job right now that is, without nobility, because you are following a leader who, is inept. He's not a real leader, and it's kind of like, a chicken with its head's cut off. If there's no leadership, then everything else suffers. If you can't trust your government, you can't trust your commanders who are giving you orders, then why? And, to me, just by seeing the little bit that I see on social media, clips that are trending, or maybe something, you might find in the news or legacy media. It doesn't sound, like Trump has the trust and the faith of the people. I mean, at this point, he's definitely not doing well in polls. So, without getting into the politics of it all, I just kind of feel like the bottom line is, if you can't trust our leader, if we can't trust our government, then why would you want to go fight in a war for them or with them even? If you don't trust them, how can you trust what your commander is telling you is valid or is true? Or maybe some people might not even believe in the cause of what they're fighting for, so maybe they're not going to fight for that reason. But just let's just say you don't trust what the president's saying, because maybe before he was caught in a lie or not. But just the fact that he may have been creates the possibility that there is some dishonesty going on there. And then that would create some doubt in my mind as to whether the next thing he might be saying is true or not. And that whether the command he's giving, to my, commander is the right command. That would be in the back of my mind. I'm just saying. That's the honest truth of it. And if I was a serviceman, I'd be wondering, well, are they giving me, the right order, and are they really trying to, do the best for our country? I'd be questioning all that. I'd be questioning whether they're giving me the right order, and if that order is the right order for what our country is needing to do. Those are two things that I question. And then, the fact that, do you even believe in what they're fighting for? Maybe if I were to put that aside and say, hey, it's not up to me, I'm just, here, let the commanders decide what we're fighting over. Fine. But if you want to waive that right and just say, hey, I'm going to do what they say, fine. You got to then trust in what they're saying is something that, you believe is going to work, right? Why would you fight in a war that you know you're not going to win? And it's like, just blindly following your commanders, knowing that they're not doing the right thing and that they could, pose a threat and just lead themselves into certain death. Why would you do that? Doesn't make any sense. And even more so, if your commanders just don't have the strategy, or just they're not doing it right, or they just don't trust them, then those are things that you got to question as a serviceman or a military man. And that's what I would want to do if I was one. And I'm trying to do that now, because I'm saying, if, let's just say worst case scenario, the United States has to go to war and everyone who can has to go fight. These are questions that I would have. Seriously, very seriously. And I'm just pointing that out. In the situation we're in, let's just say, worst case scenario, United States has got to go to war. It's all out World War III. Everyone has to go and fight. I would have these questions before I signed up. Because I don't really trust what, the president says. I don't trust our media. I don't trust our government. I'd have to question everything they said. And even then, if I did question it, then I might have to pose judgment on whether or not I believed in what they're fighting for, because, I might disagree that what the United States has done or has been doing for the several past wars they've had that are not really useful. So I might question whether this war is useful before you go enter into another war, America, right? Because we've had several wars that have been never ending, and they're all not useful, and they haven't done anything productive for America. Okay? So I would question that again and say, why do we want to go into another never-ending war if the others haven't been productive? And what will be different about this one that's going to make this one productive? I would question those things, at the very least this time, because there's no way we got to be, that stupid to just keep repeating the same thing over and over again, to think we're going to go into another never-ending war with another country, that has these strong religious beliefs, and then we're going to just try to change their regime and come in there and have a, boots on the ground, a military that's going to occupy their territory, and it's going to make them just, fight religiously against us. And then we have these wars where we can't win, and then we get kicked out of the country. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure any historian will tell you that same pattern has repeated itself many times over, from the war in Iraq to Vietnam, you name it, and it's happened. And now we're just doing it in Iran. So I think in Afghanistan, it's just ridiculous. And I would question that again now. And I would wonder, why are we doing it? And if I was a serviceman, or you asked me to be called into service, I would question my commanders because I don't trust them. I would say, wait a second, are what they're saying is true? Because I heard them say something different in the news media, or I saw something different on social media. Or just the fact that Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of War from the Department of War, has been quoted as trying to tell the media what to put as the headlines, just makes me feel like there's some distrust. If anything, he should just be fielding questions and saying, hey, yeah, no, we really can't answer that for the confidentiality nature, and then answering questions honestly to the best of his ability. That's what he should be doing. He shouldn't be coming up in there saying, hey, this is the headline it should be. That would just put distrust in me. And I'd think like, wait a second, why are they trying to manipulate things? Why you gotta lie? Why don't you just say what it is? Because then I would think, well, what happens to me if I die on the battlefield? Are they gonna like even say anything about that? Or are they gonna say it wasn't true? Are they gonna like deny that I was even there? Or are they gonna say that I didn't do what I was doing, right? Are they gonna lie against me? That would be my first instinct. I can't fight for a government or a country that's gonna lie, because most likely that lie will turn against me one day. So I just can't do that. And that's why all of this disturbs me, because we're now living in a time where, you know, you really can't trust anything or anybody, and most certainly our governments. And so, you know, as we enter this global conflict, another global conflict, which to me is going to be looking like it's going to turn into a world war. And when I say a world war, I mean more than just two countries are going to enter into the war. I mean, there's already three, fine, but it's not just like you against me, right? It's not just he said, she said, just his word against, you know, one person's word against the other, where it's just two countries. No, this is like other countries are going to get involved because of the result of where things are going. As it escalates, it's not just going to be the US and Israel and just Iran. I have a feeling Iran is going to pull in other people because it's attacking other countries besides US and Israel. It's attacking Gulf Coast countries. And so those countries are probably going to have to like get pulled in, and they may have to retaliate, or they may ask for help from other countries. So then other countries are going to now start getting involved. And if they don't, then that's good. But I have a feeling that when you have more than just two countries involved, it becomes a world war. So at a minimum, if you got Israel, the United States, and Iran, that's like kind of like more than just two countries. And I would consider it a world war. They're not calling it World War III yet, but when you add one more person into this, and now you've got four countries, I would call that a world war. And now more countries are going to get involved just because they have to pick sides, or they have to be on the side of the person that they've been supporting all along. Or otherwise, they're going to kind of like have to, you know, show their true colors. But anyway, all that being said, you know, I kind of just feel like these are things that are on my mind, and, you know, they probably should be things that you might want to be thinking about. And if you're not, I don't know where you've been, living on a rock or something, but it's just permeating my feeds and showing up everywhere on social media, and it's trending, and like news about the wars is everywhere. So I cannot tune in. I try to avoid it, but this is my take on it. And, you know, I've said it before in the past, and it all has to do with, you know, what that social media influencer says. And it goes back to that same thing. And it's like, you know, you'd rather do much worse things with yourself. You know, you will do a lot of other things instead of going to fight for a country that you don't trust in a war that you don't believe in, right? You'll do a lot of other things except that. And she framed it pretty well, and I would kind of like leave you with that, right? You know, there's not many people that are going to want to go fight a war for a country that they don't trust, in a war that they don't believe in, when they could be doing something else that makes a difference in the world. And at the very least, putting lots of money in their pocket to give themselves some security and financial freedom in this capitalistic system that we've been, forced to live in, We weren't provided the system, we were given it. Maybe now that some of us are winning, you want to throw a war at us and then, make the prices go up and try to take more money from us. I kind of resent that, and I kind of don't like that. And I kind of resent the fact that, this country's going to attempt to put servicemen and women, people in the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines in a war in harm's way for not a real defensive reason of the United States. There's no real reason. We were not under attack. There's no real threat to the United States. And that is not a real cause for a military action. So putting our military men in harm's way right now for something that is, unwarranted, which is an unprovoked aggression, if you ask me, it's unprovoked. There was no need. We weren't being attacked. Then there's no need to put our servicemen at risk. And if you ask me, that's the only time our servicemen and women should be at risk, is when the United States is under attack. There's a imminent threat, and there's something that is, approaching our borders, or there's something that has, encroached our territory. That's the only time that I think that that we should be deploying our servicemen. And in those times, they should exactly know what they're fighting for. Other than that, I don't think that we should be, violating the trust of our military servicemen. Those people put their lives on the line for a good reason, and we shouldn't violate that trust. So that's one thing that's important to me, and at the very least, our government should protect that one thing. We need to at least protect that one thing. If we don't do anything else as a country, we need to do at least that one thing, because then we won't have any service men and women on the front line if we can't have them put our trust in us. Because I'll tell you right now, if it was me on the front line, I would want to have my trust and faith in my government that they would support me in that manner, right? Because that's really what you need from your commanders and your leaders. So anyway, if you want to discuss more about this, or you disagree, or you got some comments, whatever, put it below. Leave it here for me, and then I'll get back at you. I'm pretty good at answering the comments, and you can catch me on social media, DM. We can have the convo there. Other than that, I don't want to take too much of your time, but yeah, those are just some of the things that have been bothering me. There's some of my thoughts that I have that I just couldn't keep in, and I had to get out. So hopefully that wasn't too much. And maybe, yeah, I'll see you next time.
This is Bayside, and this is the fight to find something real in a world that can turn on you in an instant. Thanks for watching. Hey guys. We're back where the sun kisses the sand and the sound of urethane on concrete is the soundtrack of our lives. I'm just another skater trying to find my way. Maybe there's a place here for me. We're all chasing that feeling you only get from landing a trick you've been battling all day. The boardwalk is a tidal wave of human surfers, skaters, and loners. And beach bums have flooded any available inch of real estate. The park is absolutely buzzing, a mashup of everyone from the little groms just learning to drop in, to moms, pros, and even the scooter kids. For once, everyone is getting along. That is, until you hear it. A faint, blood-curdling scream, lost somewhere in the distance, swallowed by the noise of the park before you can even place it. The beach is a sensory overload. The sun glints off the water where kids are splashing, their laughter mixing with the distant cries of gulls. It's pure visual eye candy, a moving mosaic painting the shoreline. It's a sea of bodies stretching as far as the eye can see, a human current flowing from one end of the boardwalk to the other. This is what Bayside is like. From the beach, the waves out to where the surfers are in the water. As each set breaks, a new lineup takes their chances. Surfer after surfer trying to time their pop-up perfectly. Only the best surfers are catching these waves, carving smooth lines back to shore, catching barrel, while the kooks get tossed. boards flying as they wipe out in a spray of white water. In the middle of this organized chaos, you can't help but notice them. There's always one, the one and only kook on the beach today, a fish out of water. The other surfers are actively avoiding him, paddling away as he awkwardly tries to position himself, a disruptive force messing up their rhythm and making the most out of each missed opportunity. He's no help to anyone out there, not even himself, cutting an awkward, inefficient path through the water. From a higher vantage point, you could see the strange, zigzagging trail he carves through the surfers ganged up at the break, waiting for the next set of oncoming waves. From the water's edge, we can just spy the lifeguards on their towers, their silhouettes stark against the bright sky, keeping a watchful eye on everything. In the distance, carried on the breeze, the tinny sound of an announcer's voice echoes across the beach, calling the play-by-play for each surfer that manages to catch a wave. Now, from our perspective at the skate park, it all clicks into place. It's a surfing competition. That explains the crowds, the announcer, the whole electric vibe. All the people on the beach are watching the water, their cheers erupting for a successful run and collective groans of oohs and ahs echoing when there's a major wipeout. The sounds of the skate park start to blend back into the picture as the surf comp provides a new rhythm for our session. We can see the skaters in the park, myself included, imitating the surfers' moves on the concrete waves of the bowl. I live for these moments in the skate park, a perfect little storm where worlds collide. And for once, all seems to be perfectly okay. Everyone looks like they're getting along. Even the skate buddies are laughing and having fun with the Girl Swirl crew. It feels like one of those moments you try to bottle up, if only for a second. The day couldn't possibly get any better than this perfect sun-drenched afternoon. But then we hear it again. Another blood-curdling scream rips through the air, this time closer, sharper. It isn't lost in the noise. This time, it's followed by a single terrifying word that cuts through everything. Shark! From the skate park, we see the shift instantly. A wave of motion, but not from the ocean. People on the beach scatter, a chaotic explosion of panic. On the water, the cool, collected vibe of the competition shatters. The surfers lose their composure, their rhythmic paddling turning into a frantic scramble as they all try to paddle in at once, a mad dash for the shore. From our vantage point, the picture becomes horrifyingly clear. We can see the dark outline, a shadow moving just beneath the surface. Definitely not a baby shark. This is a big one. A Jaws-type creature. It's massive. It has a slow, deliberate glide that looks like it's pursuing its prey. Hurried splashes of the surfers trying to exit the water as fast as their arms can carry them. It's the silent, unseen predator that lives here, where we struggle to find something real in a world that can turn on you in an instant. This is Bayside. Thanks for watching and follow for more stories from the park.